Audiobook Spring. Listen to relaxing novel. Thank you for following and not crossing advertisements. Female doctor and journeys through time. Time to become a princess. Chapter 11. The Man in White. 1. Lian Xin turned her head to look at the eunuch who was scolding Liu Yukan beside her, smilingly said, "Liu Kong, such a person doesn't have to give. Come in here again. My relationship with him was torn apart. Since that day I don't want others to misunderstand." Liu Gong looked at Lian Xin with a dazed expression. This must be the first time that the princess had such a peaceful attitude in front of people. It made him miserable. "Princess." Liu Yukan's expression changed. He looked at Feng Ru. Qing, who was about to walk away, therefore hurried to intervene. "You say that? What does it mean?" Lian Xin stopped walking. She turned to look at Liu Yukan and said with a small smile, "You don't want to marry me. Now I want to marry you, that's all. As for the ministerial residence, you don't have to worry. After all, the past is all my fault. I'm not. I should separate my lovers so I can marry you. Even now I regret what I did. But would not follow, not to harass, not to give up, and even more so that His Highness would not make an account with the Chancellor." Some storylines in was able to differentiate well. At the original princess have to receive that kind of karma because it involves separating lovers, undeniably parting. She didn't intend to hurt Liu Yukan in this regard, but at the same time she didn't want to see his face again. Are you serious?" Liu Yukan narrowed his eyes and asked curiously, "Is this woman really going to let him go easily, or is she really having some evil plan to deal with Shuang again? After all, Lian Xin was a villain. Is there anything that she can't do? How brave." Liu Kong finally came to his senses. He heard Liu Yukan questioning. "So speak in a high-pitched voice. What right do you have to doubt? Your Highness, young Master Liu, if today's matter had reached His Highness' ears, the Chancellor would not have been able to guarantee your life." Liu Yukan's handsome face faded. After all, this was a royal palace. Not looking for the Chancellor's residence, he didn't dare to be arrogant, but held back his anger. "Then put your hands together in a salute gesture to Lian Xin. Thank you, Princess, for mercy. I say goodbye, Shuanger, let's go." Before walking away, and Shuang's Huang turned back to look at Lian Xin. Once, she lightly pursed her lips. His beautiful face was slightly pale, devoid of any color. But a look of doubt in her eyes showed that he didn't believe that Lian Xin would let go. Liu Yukan really left. For Liu Yukan, Lian Xin was not afraid of embarrassment. Even if it hurts, Beige will be able to marry him. Plus agreeing to stay in the house of the family dormitory Liu alone in order to be with Liu Yukan. Moreover, for Liu Yukan, even if she had to stay at least depressed in the Liu family, she didn't complain one bit, if not because she finally decided to run against the wall to end her life. His Highness probably didn't know that. Since she got married until now, she hasn't slept with her husband once. Lian Xin retracted his gaze and looked at Liu Gong. "Did Liu Gong, father, return?" Liu Gong said with a humble expression, "Tell the princess, your Highness is still talking about morning affairs. I haven't come back yet." "I know." Lian Xin smiled slightly. "Then I'll go for a walk first. I'll come back to see my father in a little while." In fact, in the memories of the former princess, Lian Xin found very little information about the imperial palace. The old princess was lazy to the point of not walking out of the imprinted palace. Later, she accidentally met Liu Yukan. Then start leaving the palace on a daily basis. Moreover, from then on, the entire Liuyun county started to spread stories about her. It is true that she bullies women, possessing men, doing only evil, whether young or old. If they hear her name, they must keep it to nightmares. Thinking of the bad things that Lian Xin had done in the past, she was so embarrassed that sweat dripped down her face. It's a misery that is painful, enduring, wanting to erase the memories that those people have, afraid that it would be extremely difficult. Chapter 12. The Man in White. 2. Throughout Liuyun County, aside from her father's emperor, there wasn't anyone who didn't want her to rush to her death. If she really did die, it's likely that the entire region would celebrate. Linson, you can do this. I don't know if I should curse you or not. I should pity you. Linson shook his head with a feeling of helplessness, but after all, I live in your body. Bring me back to life again, so I won't let people talk badly about you, and I won't let your father suffer again. This was a payment for using her body. The high and low sound of the flute resonated in the distance. Make Linson stop thinking for a moment. No, she looked up to see that he walked into the bamboo forest without. The sound of a flute came from the deep bamboo forest. Clear, melodious voice with high and low sounds. Harmonized like a lazy wind blowing in that bamboo forest. Linson walked slowly. Her body was fat and heavy. As he trampled on the ground, a rustle sounded, but the sound of the flute did not stop. On the contrary, the voice sounded even more beautiful. In a deep bamboo forest, a man holds a flute in his hand. Stand in the middle a weary breeze dressed in white like in the painting like a god ascended from the heavens. Compared to the pure and beautiful bamboo forest, he was even more like the cold moonlight. When he looked into his eyes, his heart melted. Can't shake off that image. But as soon as Linson saw that man, what she only thought the only thing is, get a husband, and get a husband. If compared to the man in front of him, Liu Yukon, what's that fight? Not at all. If one is the dust of the earth, another one is bright moon in the sky. But just now, what Linson saw was only a side face, but it made her feel so stunned. Thus, as the man slowly turned his head, Linson felt that there was no man in this world who could be more handsome than him. In matched beauty all people except from time immemorial, Tan Shuang's Huang was known as the #1 beauty of Liuyun County. Compared to the man in front of him, the beauty of, she fell to the top. Had this man dressed like a woman, in this world I didn't know that there would be a man who would go crazy. Fang, Ruqing? The man's voice was as calm as water rising from the ground, a clear and cold voice that was very pleasing to hear. He watched Linson appear from behind him. As calm as water, look, let go, don't get obsessed. Aren't you afraid of me? The man slowly approached Linson. Linson stood dumbfounded. Afraid of him? He's so beautiful. Then why should she be afraid of him? 2. Although Linson had inherited the memories from the body's owner, but some of the useless information she had already filtered out. Therefore, upon hearing this man's words, so she hurriedly searched for what was in it. Memory for a moment, then she became so angry that her face turned red in an instant. Rong Guifei deserves to die. In the past, Rong Guifei had always scared the old princess that this man in the bamboo forest was not just a person. Fierce but also transforms into a werewolf at night. It will eat the nearby people until there is not even a carcass left. The old princess was so scared that she didn't even dare to take a single step into the bamboo forest, even though she had seen this man in another place by chance. But she didn't dare to look up. Look up at him once, the same princess, who thought about doing whatever she wanted to do. Only this man in the bamboo forest could make her feel scared and wanted to be far away from him, the better. But her, Linson looked at the man with a smile. Nan Christian Glossy only looks so good. Why would I fear you? The corners of Nanshin's mouth formed a small curve. His smile was blurry. It's not so clear that it can be called invisible at all. But the eyes that looked at Linson, it shows the thought of looking for an answer. Do you really think I'm handsome? That's right. Linson's gaze looked at Nan Christian from the head. To openly, her gaze seemed to take off her clothes. The man left no pieces left. If you don't wear clothes, it would be even more attractive than this. One glow sai is the position of a royal teacher. Chapter 13. It's okay to sleep with you. 1. If you don't wear clothes, it would be even more attractive. Nanshin's cold eyes stared at Linson, as if to see through her body, to see through her mind. And the sight that seemed to see through everything made the mind Linson's things trembled strangely. She thought that this glow sai. You seem to know something. If the princess likes beautiful women when you wait for you to be thin, you must be the #1 beauty in the world. Then why do you have to look at me? Before Nan Christian could continue the interrogation, the corner of his mouth had a slight smile that didn't look very clear. Isn't that funny? Linson walked towards Nan Christian slowly, took a few more steps, and said with a smile, I like it. Guoshi's more perfect body. If you caress it, you'll feel something different. So, Nanshian's tiny smile was as bright and beautiful as a bamboo. If you compare me with Liu Yukin, what do you think? Beauty in front lines in didn't care about being reserved. What attitude was she laughing at? What can Liu Yukin compare to Guosai? A handsome man like you in the palace, I am not shaken. The original princess really had been nice. This Guosu, despite which is more beautiful Liu Yukin 100-fold, but why did she go back to like a man who loves others? You're not Lin Xin. Nanshian's voice turned cold. Speak in a deep voice. Lin Xin's conscience was shaken that she dared to stand in front of Nan Christian like this. Because the original princess did not, we've known each other before, even though we've only seen each other a few times. But why was this Nan Christian able to see that she was not Lin Xin? Even the emperor's father couldn't see it. Guosai, what do you mean? Lin Xin quickly calmed down, her mouth smiling. I'm not Lin Xin. Who else can there be? Someone in Liuyun County who is fat like me? Intuition says. Nan Christian walked closer to Lin Xin, so close that he was almost next to him that he could feel the others breathing. But compared to the previous Lin Xin, I like you now better. Lin Xin blinked. Why? Because you, right now, have sharp eyes. His voice was pleasant to hear. Sweet and cool, but it made Lin Xin feel irritated. Or actually, this Guoshai also likes to be admired by others. In the past, I just didn't know. And have never met Guosu. What's more, never noticed your face. Now, I understand clearly. Protect me from disappointment. More importantly, besides Liu Yukin, I know that there are better people waiting for me. In fact, when the emperor's grandson died, I loyal subordinate of Nalan Wanghao and his clan. In the past, she was all protecting Lin Xin. Just because she kept disappointing them, now those people didn't have anyone who wanted to see her again. This southern bamboo forest, no one can come in. Nanshian's eyes looked cold. Voice as smooth as the wind. Next, if you want to see me, you can come anytime. Each month I'm going out. Just 5 days outside, usually in this southern bamboo forest. Lin Xin blinked his eyes. What did this Guoshai want to say? The southern bamboo forest, can't anyone enter? After all, she can come in here all the time? Was she tempting Guosai to be so easily trapped? But Lin Xin thought that the story wouldn't be that simple. She wasn't. I believe that Guoshai with that kind of lustless face will fall victim. Her stuff is as simple as this. Chapter 14. It's okay to sleep with you too. Guosai, your southern bamboo forest probably has a lake, right? Yes. Lin Xin subconsciously wiped his nose with his finger. Oh. Then next time when you go to take a bath and swim in the lake, can you send someone to tell me? Trust me, I will secretly take a look and not disturb you. Nanshian's handsome face finally changed color, probably because he couldn't handle Lin Xin's lewdness. It's already late. You should go back now. Tomorrow afternoon you can come to see me. Nan Christian looked at Lin Xin with hidden eyes. Feeling deeply, if you have any problems with practicing penance, you can always ask me. When talking about this point, Nan Christian was silent for a moment before continuing. If you really want to see me undress, wait until you reach the Tianwu level. I will give you what you want. There were a total of 10 proficiency ranks in the continent. Starting from the lower ranks, they were Chuwu, Dewu, Senwu, Lingyu, Swanwu, Tianwu, Shengwu, Wangwudi, and Wushan. If relying on the original Lin Xin's talent then to reach at that level, I don't know what life to wait for, but now, she is no longer the same Lin Xin, as long as she puts in enough effort. Tianwu level probably isn't. What's difficult? Guosai, you have accepted my word. You can't come back later. Lin Xin smirked. Otherwise I won't just take off your clothes, but will rob you. Instead, Nan Christian looked at Lin Xin calmly. If you can beat me, even if I have to sleep with you, it's fine. Although Lin Xin didn't know what level of Nanshian's talent was, from the respect his father had for him. This Guosu probably not lightly talented. If you want to defeat him, this matter looks like it's difficult. Then let me take off your clothes first and talk about it again. Lin Xin caressed her soft and round chin. She said softly. Not embarrassed, you can go back now. Don't forget, come and see me tomorrow. Nan Christian looked at the color of the sky. Said in a calm voice, Linson had just realized that he had been in the southern bamboo forest for a long time. Then it was expected that His Highness would have completed the morning affairs if Liu Gonggong told the emperor that she went to Nan Christian and didn't rush back. His father must have been upset. Think for a moment, Mrs. Zhang raised her hand and caressed Nanxian's handsome face. Wait for me here in the southern bamboo forest. Well, I will definitely come to see you tomorrow. Nanxian's eyes showed contemplation. He looked at Linson, waving away. His face was as cold as before, his eyes calm as usual. Master, a green snake flew out from Nanxian's sleeve. It sticks out its tongue and hisses. This princess really changed in the past. When she saw you, how dare you not raise your head like a devil like that? Nanxian's gaze fell on Linson, who had walked far away. He said in a calm manner, perhaps she is the person we are looking for. In the past, the people he predicted, it looks like a bad princess, but it doesn't look like it. Until the current Linson appeared. He therefore felt that the one he had been waiting for all this time has arrived. But she's too weak, really weak. Is she really the one we're looking for? The green snake asked curiously. Nan Christian didn't say a word. But he knows that whether Linson was the person he was looking for or not. But she had already appeared in his world. Make his world know the way back to the same calm as before from now on. The writing room was cold and formidable. Chapter 15. It's okay to sleep with you 3. The guards and eunuchs were kneeling in a row, trembling below. No one dared to look at the furious Feng Dianyu. Feeding cooked rice, you are spoiled rice. Who let you let Chang'er go for a walk alone? And also let her walk further into the southern bamboo forest. Hurry up and bring Kinger back to me. I will attack all of you. Feng Dianyu was furious. His face was red and black. He picked up the crane platform. On the table, he threw it to the ground hard. Because frustration makes the line, the blood in his eyes was red. His eyes were full of rage. What's even more infuriating is that as for Kinger's visit to him, these people had just come back to tell him. If anything happened to Kinger, this Liu Yun country Anya hopes to live together peacefully. Just when Feng Dianyu was so impatient that he wanted to go to the southern bamboo forest by himself, a familiar voice suddenly floated from the door. Father, has anyone else come to provoke you to anger? Feng Dianyu hurriedly raised his head. His eyes stared out of the room. Immediately, seeing the plump woman standing in front of the writing room, his anxious heart finally calmed down. Kinger, I heard that you went to the southern bamboo forest. Guosai didn't do anything to you, right? Feng Ruqing was slightly stunned. This Guosu. What did you do before? Her father was so worried about her safety. Or is it Guosu? It's really as scary as Rong Jiuifei said. I didn't do anything. Guoshai didn't like anyone going into the southern bamboo forest, especially women. Once upon a time, rescuing your sister, I want to go find Guoshai in the southern bamboo forest. But instead was hit by a green snake that was an animal Guoshai's pet snatched, plus, she was thrown out by Guoshai from the southern bamboo forest, so I'm afraid that Guoshai will do that to you. Linson's expression suddenly changed color. Feng Rishuing is Rong Gaifei's daughter, and is the one who helps Feng Ruqing escape from the grasp of the wicked as a child. Without thinking life, she remembered many years ago. Rishuing had been bitten by a snake and had its venom, but she didn't know that it was Guoxi's pet because of such an unimportant matter. His father probably didn't think to tell her about it anyway. But Rong Jiuifei, on the one hand, told her about the horrors of Guosai, on the other hand, was actually encouraging her. For his daughter to be close to Guosai, what Rong Jiuifei was thinking was not difficult to see. Fortunately you are fine. Feng Dianyu was delighted, he felt relieved, otherwise. Even if father loses Liuyun County, then he will be able to account for Guosai frogs. Linson's feelings were confused. Perhaps for Liuyun County Feng Dianyu might not be good king, but for her this father is the best in the world. Father, in fact, Guosai isn't that scary. In Linson's head, an image of a man of divine beauty sprung up. She smiled slightly. It could be that Rishuang has gone. What did you do to make Guosai angry? No matter how ruthless Guo Shai was, would not just let the snake bite because that person walked into his territory at most. He would just drive her away. It must have been because Feng Rishuang saw Guo Xi's dignity. So I have a mind that is not naive. Provoking Guo Xi, let alone Guo Xi, who was cold and good-looking, like that, wouldn't be so easily offended. Guo Xi, don't do anything, you're good. Feng Tianyu smiled and rubbed Lin Xin's head with his hand. What did Feng Rishuang do in the southern bamboo forest? He knew very well and knew that. What did she do to make Guo Shai angry? But for his eldest daughter, even though he looks better than anyone else. But the ability to make matters not inferior to others, so he was worried like this. Feng Rishuang's actions back then originally, Feng Dianyu intended to tell Chang'er to know. Unfortunately, Kinger protected Rongyi. Fei and Feng Rishuang were too much. If he dared to say that two mothers and children were not good, even just one sentence, this daughter must be playing a nervous war with him. Chapter 16, Teach the Maid of Honor 1. Over time, Feng Dianyu did not want to take these matters. Tell Chang'er again. Feng Dianyu said with a sigh, Kinger, remember that no matter what, father wants you to be happy. Feng Rishuang was not a transparent woman. Honest without guile, as you think she's a liar. Rongji Yui Fei is not a merciful mother. This Feng Rishuang when he was young was still a bit good. His attention was solely focused on Chang'er. She wasn't bad, with lines in a lot, but when she grows up, she becomes even more cunning that he accepts. Not the most. This mother and daughter duo flattered and applauded Chang'er until they believed him head over heels. Lin Xin looked at Feng Dianyu's hair growing gray strands. She felt dejected. Father, I didn't know before, made his father tired in the future. I will not make father disappointed again. Good. Feng Dianyu laughed heartily. Feeling extremely relieved, now you can think about it. If it goes on like that, I don't know how. When I go to the next world, how can I look at your mother's face? It could be that when talking about the deceased Nalinian Empress, the atmosphere in the writing room became quiet. Your Highness? Lin Xin finally spoke first, causing the atmosphere of sorrow to fade away. My Highness came to see His Highness Father, because there is a matter. I don't know if Father will allow me or not. Feng Dianyu frowned. Ching'er, you still gave up on Liu Yu. Can't Chen again. Listen to Father. Liu Yukin is not the right person for you. It's not her. Lin Xin called the front line. Mom, I want to ask. The residence of His Highness Father Pika. The girl's words caused Feng Dianyu to have a shocked expression on his face. He looked at the girl in front of him in surprise. Kinger, it's good to stay in the Imperial Palace. Why do you want Princess Mansion? How can Father trust you to go out alone? Father? Lin Xin's eyes flashed, suddenly laughing, because Guo Xi will accept me as his disciple. Can't help it, to get out of the royal palace she had to use the Guo. Beautiful figure as an excuse. As expected, hearing Lin Xin's explanation, Feng Dianyu felt a sense of trust, followed by the utmost joy. Guo Xi's ability, to be honest, even Feng Dianyu didn't know much. And the more he didn't know the reason that Guo Xi was in Liuyun County for what. But what he clearly knew was that if Kinger had Guo Xi as her teacher, in this world, she could do anything she wanted. Kinger, are you telling the truth? Will Guo Xi accept you as a disciple? Or why did he suddenly accept a disciple? This matter, I don't know. Lin Xin rolled his eyes. Maybe it was because Guo Xi saw that I was smart. So get my mom be the first disciple. However, because Guo Xi's position was rather special, it was inconvenient to enter the Imperial Palace. So I want to stay in the Princess Mansion. If that's the case, then Guo Xi can come and teach me. Good. Feng Dianyu said the word good in a long line. There was a look of joy in his eyes, clearly feeling the joy that Lin Xin had received. Kinger, if you practice penance with Guo Xi, you have to obey his words. Don't be selfish like before, you know. Besides, the matter of becoming a disciple of Guo Xi is absolutely forbidden to be known. Father, I'm afraid it will cause you harm. Last sentence Feng Dianyu said in a very serious voice. He was clearly not deranged from surprise. His brain was filled with concern for his daughter's safety. Mom, I already know. Lin Xin repeatedly nodded his head. Just let her go, can stay outside the palace no matter what. She was happy to accept it. Besides, now there is Guoshai as an excuse. She will do anything much more convenient. Chapter 17 Teach the Maid of Honor 2. Okay, then I will give you the mansion on the South Road. That mansion is not far from General Nalan's house. Fengti Anyu was silent for a moment before saying in a serious tone. But in the past, the Nalan generals prevented you from close to Rongji Uifei because they wished well to you. Do not betray them again. However, they are people of your mother's family. Lian Xin lowered his eyes. Nalan Yan, her mother, was the young lady of the Sakal Nar family. Grandson after Maining passed away from this world. General Nalan, who is an uncle, her stuff is very good to her. But she was manipulated by Rongji Uifei. Not only ignore the restraining from General Nalan. Moreover, Miss, hand over the Iron Blood plaque to Rongji Uifei. He also liked to conspire with Feng Rishuang to bully uncle on a regular basis. When thinking about things that the same princess did in the past, Lian Xin was so dizzy that he could not speak. His father trusted him. I won't cause trouble. You're angry with the frogs, uncles again. The same Lian Xin was a fool. Who was good to her? Who was using her? She couldn't distinguish. It also made her relatives sad. But, talking about the Iron Blood, sign this item. She must take can be returned. You can think like this. Father is comfortable? Fengti Anyu smiled, but before, I was surprised by your change. Now I know that you have become a disciple of Guoshai. I am not surprised. It was because Guoshai helped refine you. That's why you know your guilt and guilt like this. Guoshai softens her. Lian Xin closed his eyes. If Guoshai was willing to go naked, she would be happy to be persuaded by him. Guoshai is very good. Lian Xin smirked. Guoshai looks so beautiful, it must be good anyway, Your Highness. At that moment, a eunuch hurriedly walked in. He shook his whip, bowed respectfully, and said, the chancellor came and asked to stay outside. Stewards, Liu Yukin's father. Because of Liu Yukin's affairs, Lian Xin therefore did not want to meet face to face. People of the chancellor's residence. She frowned and said, Father, then I say goodbye to you. Her father's business is more important. Can? Fengdi Anyu's expression was flat, and he said in a stern voice, somebody, call Liu Faihong in. When Lian Xin turned around and walked out of the writing room, looked at Liu Faihong, who was waiting quietly right in front of the door. Liu Faihong didn't expect the princess to recover so quickly. What's more, is to meet at the writing room, so when you see that plump woman walking out, his expression was dull and bowed in a timid manner. Bless the princess. Lian Xin looked at Liu Faihong with a calm expression. Standing still, he said, Sect Master Liu. Liu Yukin's divorce letter. Before, Liu Yukin handed her a divorce letter to her hands, but unfortunately she could not accept such heartbreak and chose to kill herself. Liu family house. Liu Faihong was shocked. He hurriedly explained, Princess, I will have Liu Yukin withdraw the divorce letter and tear it up. Please give him one more chance. Lian Xin smiled. Her smile was very clear. Sectarian, I think you must have misunderstood. I ask you to send a divorce letter to me in the mansion. I have already settled with Liu Yukin, and he and I are no longer husband and wife. Liu Faihong, both eyes were full of confusion, looking at Lian Xin helplessly. This princess. Do you want to divorce Yu Chen? She loved Yu Chen with all her heart, didn't she? Divorce with Yukin, did it really go down? Besides, the princess's reputation was feng fei, plus plump, fat, ugly. In the future, it is known that she had been divorced. Will she be able to find another person to marry? Chapter 18 Teach the Maid of Honor 3. But these words Liu Faihong did not dare to speak in front of Lian Xin. He wiped the sweat on his forehead. He smiled and said courteously, Princess, I have taught Yu Chen a lesson. From now on, he didn't dare to do that again. And yes, this is all I have to say. If you refuse to take the letter divorce sent to me in the suburbs, I, Lian Xin, will announce it to the whole country that I have divorced Liu Yukin. This time, it wasn't Liu Yukin who told her to divorce her, but it was she who told him to divorce him. Finishing speaking, Lian Xin moved towards her plump body. Heading to the imprinted palace, this body was bulky. Today she walked a lot, making her panting his white forehead. She was full of sweat, but The feeling of getting out of bed and walking like this is so unbearable. So awesome. When she was in the rehabilitating center for a very long time, the bed was stuck in the bed and the patient could not get up. Far away, Lin Xin saw Qingling standing at the door. She turned around, anxiously looking around, until he saw Lin Xin there, for clearly relieved. "Give your respects, princess." Qingling bowed down to pay respects. "Qingling, come here, I have something to tell you." Lin Xin looked at Qingling, pushed the door of the imprint palace open, and walked in. Qingling felt her heart pounding. She hurriedly followed Lin Xin in. An overflowing feeling of resentment overflows. Red-eyed lady. "Princess, did the servant do something wrong? I remember you were the person Rong Gui Fei sent to live with me." Feng Ruqing slightly squinted his eyes. The corners of her mouth weren't smiling. Initially, her maid of honor was not Qingling, but a person who used to serving Her Majesty before. But after getting to know the frog Rong Gui Fei, because of Rong Gui Fei's deceit, she thought that the maid of honor who was waiting worrying patiently persuaded her to be an annoying person. Then he chased the maid to the laundry room. This Qingling was the one sent by Rong Gui Fei. No matter what it is, rely on her. Things are made together, crowding people together. Qingling was stunned, looked at Lin Xin suspiciously. The servant was the one that consort Rong Gui Fei had sent to live with him. "Lady, princess, have you forgotten?" Lin Xin continued in a flat tone. "Then can you tell me? After Rong Gui Fei asked you to follow me, she gave you, what did you do?" Qingling said with a hint of indifference. Rong Gui Fei ordered the servants to take care of the princess, plus everything, to follow the princess' wishes. The princess wants to eat whatever she wants. What does the princess want to do? Keep doing it. Be a friend. If the servant does not do what the princess commands, he will beat me to death. Did she say anything else? Not anymore. Qingling shook her head, looking regretful. "Princess, since then, this servant has not dared to disobey the princess' orders and has always obeyed Princess Rong Gui Fei's orders. I don't know that during this time, the servant did it. What's wrong? Did you do something to make the princess dissatisfied or not?" Lin Xin smirked and said nothing. The fearless habit of the original princess, it really comes from giving Rong Gui Fei the end. As for Qingling, this person seemed to have no problem. "She is worried about you, sincere woman, but the fact that she was merely a maid of honor was in the position can't decide if you don't follow the princess' orders. It's not just right." Rong Gui Fei was punished with death. Even the old princess wouldn't keep her. "Qingling, remember that in the royal palace, it is my father who is the greatest. Ever since then, my father has loved me. But you followed Rong Gui Fei. Isn't it indistinguishable like this?" Qingling was silent. But the person who was more obedient to Rong Gui Fei wasn't the princess. "Next time, I'll move out of the residence. Then go to the princess mansion. In that mansion, you only listen to my instructions. If I catch that you and Rong Gui Fei went to meet each other." Lin Xin rolled his eyes. "How did I treat other people in the past? I will do the same for you." Chapter 19, Building Prestige 1. Princess, Bao Mai Clarp. Qingling trembled. She thought that since the princess woke up, really changed. If she dares to intervene with Rong Gui Fei again, the princess must play. She's dead. At this moment, an angry cursing sound came from outside the door. "Liu Li, what are you doing here? The palace of the princess, do you think you can come? Don't hurry again, be careful, princess. Come see me and I'll beat you to death." Liu Li? This name, Lin Xin, seemed to vaguely remember it. She had already walked around Qingling, slowly heading out of the imprinted palace. Outside the palace is a garden full of peach trees in full bloom. In the garden, a slender woman stood under a peach tree with a puling expression. Push! She wore a simple maid of honor dress. Mrs. Thin figure, as if there was a wind blowing, it would be blown away. Servant came to see the princess. After watching, the servant will leave. You think princess is someone you want to meet like that? You're just a maid in the laundry room, and you don't have any abilities. What right do you have to meet the princess? The person standing in front of Liu Li was an old maid, gleaming eyes, ruthless and ruthless. In an annoyed tone, he said, "Go, hurry and get your head off." Otherwise, the princess wouldn't have let you go. In a continent that prioritizes this battle to become Mrs. Divs or eunuchs in the palace, one must have the ability to fight and beat, but Liu Li's physical fitness was incomparable. Too little power in the past, because Nolan Empress took pity on her, she took her to serve by her side. After Nolan Empress died during childbirth, she was ordered to take care of the princess by default. Now the princess doesn't need her anymore. So she can only maid in the laundry room, oppressed and tormented in the palace. Dirty one, please let me see the princess once. I'd like to take a peek. Liu Li looked down, her eyes filled with concern and regret. What she was worried about was the princess' health. What I regret is the place where she had lived for many years. Come now, even if you just walk in one step is still difficult. But at first, if Nolan Empress had not saved her, she would have died in the imperial palace a long time ago. Now the princess was taken by someone else. Heard only this, how can she be trusted? Low-class woman, tell him not to go again, you asked for trouble yourself. The old maid's gaze was cruel. In any case, the princess doesn't care if it's dead or not. I'll beat it to the eye, it's fine. Liu Li's eyes were shocked, but for a moment, she calmed down. She smiled faintly. I'll go now. The day after time no one noticed. She crept in again. If really beaten to death, then it probably won't be worth it. Hey, this is where you thought to come. How can you go? Said the old lady with a savage laugh. This maid of honor, even without any power but leaving it, blocked his eyes. Let the princess become a prodigal, but this maid of honor spoke a lot. Thought to remind the princess to improve herself. Fortunately, the person she trusted the most was consort Kui Fei. Why didn't she succeed? At this moment, she still thought of wandering around in front of the princess. She couldn't leave it like this. The two guards in front of the palace began to act, each of them dragging Liu Li's arms. Liu Li was even more shocked. She writhed furiously. What are you guys doing? Let go of me, princess, don't let you beat me to death, there's no way. The year that the emperor's grandson died, she was only 3 or 4 years old, but she was the one who took care of the princess until she grew up. She didn't believe him. The woman will ignore that model. The princess was just being smitten with evil people. There must be a day when Mrs. See this world with clarity. Chapter 20, Building Prestige 2. What are you guys doing? Suddenly, a clear sound like a bell came from behind. Liu Li stiffened. She turned back even though her body was right. Sandwiched between the two guards, that fraction of a second Liu Li's face discolored. Eyes from the original anxiety became worrying. Eventually it turned into a concern. The girl's figure was very large. She looked bulky. Her head was not wearing a crown like before. There is only a fresh page, didn't stir the dough, walked out. Pure white skin without wrinkles, shine like jade. Princess beak. This Liu Li doesn't know the heights and the lows. Dare, came out of the washing room arbitrarily, plus dare to appear in front of the princess. The servant will drag her out now. So as not to block the ears, block the eyes of the princess. Lian Xin rubbed his wrist. Smiling and looking at the old maid, Chinmo was obsessed with the disobedient person. Why waste your saliva talking? Beat him to death, and that's the end of the matter. Yes, the princess is right. Those who don't obey, hit him. His palm floated and slapped onto her face. So loud, even though Lian Xin's strength wasn't that great, because her weight overpowered everything. One of the old maid's cheeks was swollen red. From the corners of his mouth, blood flowed out. Princess, did the servant do something wrong? That's why the princess slapped the servant. The old maid was angry, but he didn't dare say it directly, but gritted his teeth and asked. Feng Ruqing sneered and said, Qinmu, what did you do wrong? Don't you know at all? This Qinmu was Rong Ji Yuifei's nurse, Dong Day Princess, the same person Rong Ji Yuifei knew. Rong Ji Yuifei then deceived her to take her own milkmaid under the palace. As well as being a nursing mother who trains and teaches the woman in the palace that was occupied here continued to come. Therefore, Feng Ruqing Zhang could forgive Qingling, but forgive Qin's moodiness. Cannot, this is my palace. No order from me, who allowed, you guys take action. Blind Sin abruptly turned towards the guards carrying Liu Li's wings and continued in a stern voice. The guards looked at each other and hurriedly let go of their hands, retreated and stood beside them. These years, they were accustomed to taking orders from Qin Mu. Time in palace until forgetting who exactly is the boss of here. Qingling, you took Liu Li to change clothes. No need to go to the laundry room, next time she will follow me. Lion Sin looked at what Liu Li had seen. Obviously, she still couldn't stand her shock. She breathed a sigh of relief. The same princess had committed countless bad deeds and distinguished those loyal and devious make the people around you said. Liu Li stared blankly. When the princess found out that she had come here, the princess wasn't angry, and even decided to keep her to follow and serve. Are you dreaming? Liu Li pinched her cheek vigorously. She was in so much pain that she was in tears. She cried until she turned into a smile. Then he raised his hand to wipe away the tears that had fallen on his face vigorously. It hurts, this isn't a dream. The princess has really come to her senses. After Lion Sin lifted Liu Li to Qingling to take care of him, his eyes, the coldness of the two ladies, stared at the old maid. The corner of her mouth suddenly, a smirk appeared when seeing her smile. The old maid was nervous, holding her hand tightly. Knelt down in front of Lion Sin. Princess, the servant really doesn't know. Where did you go wrong? Please don't be angry with your highness. Lion Sin walked towards the old maid. First, I am the master, you are the servant. Someone came to see me, you did not come to report. I took the liberty to make my own decision. This is the first mistake. Second, no matter how I used to be. But from now on, the person next to my body will not have those who do not discriminate between right and wrong. They are fearless. The dignity of the royal family must not be completely destroyed. Third, you weren't originally a person of the imperial palace. Now, if you don't leave the imperial palace, then get away with wrong Gui Fei. Muum is a term for an elderly maid of honor or maid of honor, used to act as a nurse.
Desire to listen to good novel? Don't forget to subscribe.